There you go. Look at that. So thank you, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alexander Burke Robertson, and I am a school administration consultant here at the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction, who deals most closely with our independent charter schools. So everyone on the PEO team supports independent charter schools in some capacity, but I am the person who works most closely with y'all. And so I'm going to be the person that you have to put up with for the term of your charter contract until I ride off into the sunset. So this is a program that we've put together with the support of the department. It's hosted by Works. Dr. Sarah Hackett is on the call. I believe you all know her as well. If you don't, you should visit Works. This is something that we put together after hearing from our independent charter schools that they want to be in compliance. They're busting butt to be in compliance, but there was a lot of things that they wish they knew on the front end before they dove right into it. That, hey, had we known that going in, we could have done it a little bit better. And so I said, well, hey, I can fix that. That's not a problem. And so that's how we came up with LEA 101. And so this year we decided, hey, we've got a small crew coming in as a new independent charter school, and we know that there's some turnover, that people win the lottery, and your seasoned business ops person is now, on the shores of Alabama enjoying that Gulf Coast, and they're not here anymore, and your new person is, and it would be nice if they knew what they were supposed to do. So we said, hell, we can fix that too. So now, instead of just establishing an ICS as an LEA, this is establishing and maintaining an ICS as an LEA. So we're excited about having y'all on the call. So this is our agenda. One of the things that I learned from last year is that we need more breaks broken into LEA 101. And so now we've got a break at 10:15 and we've got an hour for lunch at 12:15. We're supposed to be over at 2:30. It may go a little bit long, depending on how passionate people are about their work. Not all bureaucrats are stuffy. We really do care about what we do. And so some of them may be a little bit long-winded. So that's our agenda. And so just real quick to sort of frame where we are and what we're doing. In Wisconsin, independent charter schools become their own local education agency. And so what that means, as I'm sure a lot of you know, is that all those state and federal requirements that typically fall on a school district fall on your governing board. So the civil rights obligations, the ADA obligations, McKinney-Vento, FERPA, all of those things are what you're doing. And so we at the department are sort of the folks that are helping you navigate those burdens, helping you make sure that you're in compliance. And so you're going to be spending a lot of time talking to us because you don't have an education support center down on 52nd Street in Kenosha to do it for you, right? It's you and your office that's doing all this work. And so we want to make sure that you are excelling at it. And part of that reason is because there's layers of accountability, right? So if you're a school leader, you're held accountable to your governing board, right? And your governing board is held accountable to your authorizer. But there's also, the state. We don't think of ourselves as compliance cops. We don't want to be compliance cops. We don't get paid anymore if you're out of compliance and we help you get into compliance. I get paid the same amount of money if you're 100% perfect or if you're wildly out of compliance. I would like you to be 100% perfect because then I get to sit at my desk in this drab little office reading Flannery O'Connor and I never have to think about you. So it would be swell if everyone is in compliance. We're not trying to make sure that, that we're catching you doing things. We want you to be in compliance because we also have to turn around to the bigger fish and prove to the federal government that, hey, everything's in compliance with us here. And then of course you can always be sued. So disclaimers, this presentation is not all encompassing or final. This is a 30,000 foot view. You are still responsible for knowing the Google Street View. This will orient you, but you're going to have to know the nitty gritty and the ins and outs and what color the door is. This is, not that presentation, but we do think that it's going to be very helpful for you. This presentation, of course, is for informational purposes and is not legal advice. You're all running little school districts with a lot of federal rights and obligations. If you don't have an education attorney, if you don't have an attorney for your board, I cannot recommend strongly enough that you get one, that you have someone on retainer that can provide you with legal advice, because it's not me. I'm not your attorney. The department's not your attorney. This is not legal advice. So we've got a little bit of time. I flew through that. Patrick, if you're ready to go, you know, you're welcome to start. I'll do the clicking for our presenters. And if not, then I can kill 5 minutes with a quick comedy set. I got jokes about presidents and jokes about Southern authors, so I hope that's what you're in the mood for. So Patrick, what you feeling? You may also be muted.
He had just dropped off and is right back on now. He maybe had a connection issue.
Hey Patrick, can you hear us? Popping in and out.
Now.
Okay.
Patrick, are you on?
Well, that's why we got these 5 minutes built in.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's see.
Oh, it's weird. He was on and then off and then on and then off. So
Okay. Well, while we wait for Patrick to figure it out, what can we do? Let's see.
we could do some intros. I'd love to see, like, especially the people who have their cameras on, and if we're gonna have a chance to ask questions, could we do a couple intros quick?
Can do whatever you want.
Or
We have
just
5
like
minutes
the
to kill.
schools? Oh,
Sure.
yeah. Because I see some people have it in their name, so I've been kind of snooping to see who's here from different schools. But does anybody want to chime in and just say a quick hi from your school?
Hi, Latoya here from One City. Hey, everybody.
Hey, you've got a couple other people on too, I think.
Yes, our CTO, Nicole, is on.
Hey, everybody. Nicole here from One City.
Awesome. Great,
I'm Pat
thank
from
you.
Milwaukee. I'm Pat from Milwaukee Academy of Science.
Awesome, welcome.
Hi, Christy Cole from the Lincoln Academy. And I'll have some staff popping in and out too of different sessions.
Awesome. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, like when it's their turn for their job. Yeah, you've got such a great team, Christy. Thank you.
Hi, Lois Richard, LH Academy.
Lois, which school was it again?
The LH Academy.
Yeah. Awesome. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Nicole Meyer. My camera's not working, but I am representing UW Parkside, coming on brand new to be working with 21st Century Charter. So I'm on day 4. So I have my new job, so I have lots to learn. So I'm really grateful to be here today.
Oh, welcome and congrats. What a cool opportunity. That school's been open for so long. And so coming in, it's sort of like you'll learn from them too. And that's just a really awesome place to be.
I'm very excited. Yes.
Good. All right. Well, feel free to reach out to me, or I'm sure anybody else here as you kind of get your feet on the ground.
Good morning, Laura Gutierrez and Sheba Martinez from UCC Schools, Bruce Guadalupe and Acosta. It's finally great to meet Alex or see his picture. He's been great. So thank you for your support and all your fun jokes this morning. Great to be here.
Thanks. Mike, did you hear that? Mike is my boss and he's on the call. So every time someone gives me even a modicum of praise, I make sure that he saves it for my performance review.
Yes, Mike is great. We love Alex here at UCC.
Thank you. I'm glad this is being recorded.
Well, I'm going to add too, from the Lincoln Academy, we love Alex as well, because Alex has been awesome and very supportive. So he rocks it. So he really should get an amazing performance review. I agree with Laura and UCC. So super guy.
I think
Fabulous.
Mike's just worried about the quality of the jokes, because I think that's like top of Mike's list too. So as long as Laura likes the jokes, then I feel like we're in good shape.
Yeah, Alex, this is Mike. Alex is generally just jealous because I tell better jokes than he does.
He's got better dad jokes.
You do have better dad jokes, that's true. But I'm glad to see that the $20 I slipped everyone is really starting to pay out.
It's good.
Okay, Patrick, are you on? You had the ability to, I see you keep popping in and out.
It's a lot of in and out. Yeah. Oh, wait, Patrick, are you there now? It looks like your little icon is. Wait, okay. Patrick, are you there? No.
Hey, Patrick, can you hear us?
All right, well, I want to keep, oh, well, yeah. Somebody else is having issues too. Jackie's been in and out. Patrick, it looks like you're connected now. Are you there? No. All right, I
Yeah.
see. Oh, you
Can you hear me,
are.
guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Can we take like one more minute? We were just in the middle of some intros and I don't want to leave anybody hanging, but I am so happy that you're here and we can hear you. We had Carmen starting to introduce. Carmen, do you want to just say a quick hi?
Hi, yes, Xiomara Ortiz here from Carmen Schools, and also Ching is on the call.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Chink here too, and another congrats to, or thank you to Alex for amazing support this last year. We've got a lot of newcomers, and so Alex has been extremely helpful in helping us navigate. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Another $20 well spent.
Perfect. Jackie,
Okay.
you're in. You were in and out, in and out. Are you good now?
Just trying to figure out my volume over here, but I'll
Yeah.
get it eventually.
Well, we can hear you, so that's a win.
Yes.
Any other quick hellos from schools? Otherwise, feel free to just put in the chat too, like your name and role in school. I think it just helps us ask better questions and have good conversation when we kind of know who's in the room.
I'll say good morning to everybody. I'm Jamie with the Lincoln Academy.
Good to see you.
Okay, so Patrick, I was saying before we started doing our introductions that I will click through the slides. This is my third year doing it, so I think I'm pretty intuitive, but if you need me to go ahead and go to the next slide, just tell me to hurry on up. And that's about it. So I'll give you the floor.
Great. Thanks, Alex. And just full disclosure, the Zoom's not working on my computer right now, so I'm called in on my phone. So I apologize in advance for any connections issues. But let's see if we can get through this. So again, my name is Patrick Chambers. I'm on the accountability team at DPI, and I'm here to talk with you guys about report cards. Go to the next.
Okay. Whoops.
Academic year. If you are a new school, your first report card will not be scored. You will participate in what is called alternate accountability. And if you don't have 2 years of 20 tested students, if you're a real small school, or you don't have students in tested grades, then you'll also receive an alternate accountability. But for now, can we go to the next slide?
Sure. So we're on report card overview, and I'll tell you, for me, you're coming in and out, so we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
So this is an example of okay. I'm sorry about that. hopefully we can kind of make it through. My contact information is there as well. So if it's real choppy, please reach out to me and maybe we can schedule it again when I fix these text issues. Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah, we can hear you a little bit better. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you for.
Immediately as I said that, you broke out. I'm sorry, man.
Bearing with me. So this is an example of the report card. You can see in the middle. Perfect. Would it be helpful to put some info in the chat? Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you, but as soon as I say that, I'm not going to be able to hear you.
Okay.
So the last time I made that joke, there was a delay in you responding to it. So I think we can hear each other a little bit more in sync now. Is that the case? Can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. Why don't I just try to get through this, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'm happy to meet with you guys again once we resolve the connection issue. So I'm so sorry, guys. I'm just going to keep moving. If you guys can hear me, awesome. If not, it's a very high level overview. We can figure out another time to do this, or you can.
I like that. I think that's a good idea.
Reach out to me. So I'm just going to keep talking. An overall score, an overall rating, and a number of stars required in state statute. The report cards have information about the school in the top left corner, as well as information about the students towards the top of the report card. If you look at the top right corner, you can see what is called, we call this the narrative statement. And so this is when schools have the option to submit just a kind of quick statement about their school that kind of goes beyond the report card. In terms of how report card scoring works, there are 4 priority areas: achievement, growth, target group outcomes, and on track to graduation. Target group outcomes is basically like a mini report card for students who scored in the bottom 25% of the assessments on the prior year. This replaces our closing gaps measure from the front page, but for schools that serve grades 9 through 12, there's also information about post-secondary preparation courses and programs and arts courses as well, which is new in the past couple of years. Those aren't a part of report card scoring, though. And Alex, if you can hear me, can we go to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. In terms of how the report card timeline works, we do a secure release directly to schools and districts in the fall. Districts the opportunity to review their report card data, to prepare for the public release, and to potentially reach out to that need to be. That's when the report cards are released publicly, and that's the final release of the report cards. There's no more corrections after that. That's when we do our news release and we talk and do media interviews, and that's when things get big. Like I mentioned earlier, this report card in the fall of 2024. And the report cards will be rated using alternate accountability because we'll only have 1 year of data. Your first scored report card will come in the fall of 2025. I don't have a slide on alternate accountability, but the way it works is you essentially come up with some goals for the school for ELA and for math. And whether or not you reach those goals is going to determine your alternate accountability rating. So you won't have a score, but you will have a rating. If you are a new school, we will contact you to send you with much more information on how this process works. We can go to the next slide, please, Alex.
Yep, we're there.
Where you might be able to hear me. We have a resources page that has tons of useful resources to kind of technical manuals. So if you want to kind of get the report card basics, you can look at resources there. If you want to do some math and geek out, we have the manuals that will show you how to calculate your scores. So I strongly encourage you to review these resources, especially around the time that report cards come out. If you have questions, we have a monitored inbox specific for report cards. It's at the bottom of the slide, report card help. It's always helpful to us if you send questions to that, because it helps us to track the incoming questions that come in. Alex, I don't know if you can hear me, but we can go to the next slide.
We're there.
All right, thanks so much. So if you want to reach out to a real person, again, my name is Patrick Chambers. You can see my email address at the bottom of this slide. If you want to reach out to my bosses, they're on the slide as well. You can reach out to them too. But yeah, just want to please reach out with questions.
All right. Well, as long as Patrick's still here, do we want to put anything in the chat for a few minutes? If anybody had some more immediate questions. Otherwise, I can put his email address in the chat quick too.
Do we have any questions in the chat? So one of the beauties about having all of these sessions recorded is that the sessions from last year are on WRCCS webpage. And so we had no connectivity issues the previous 2 years. You know, you can only roll the dice so many times. And so if you are looking for additional information, obviously you can reach out to Patrick directly, but the previous LEA 101s with their versions of this story are also available on the WRCCS YouTube page.
That's a good point. I'll put that link in the chat as well too, and we can always, yeah, we can always go back to Patrick. Great. Our next presenter is also not on yet, so I'll keep an eye out for him. We're off to a little bit of a shaky start this morning, but I think we're gonna find our groove.
Oh, hold on. I see what's happened. He's tried to join as a Teams and not a Zoom. So let me drop this Zoom link in there for him. Let's see. I didn't prepare enough jokes for this, y'all. I did not anticipate this.
That's all right. So Patrick also put his individual email in the chat, so you have both the report cards email and Patrick's directly if there was something in his slides you wanted to know more about. And I had put in the chat as well, but for those who are kind of don't have that open, we are going to send out the recording. Like Alex said, it'll be on our YouTube sort of posted, but we'll send the link and then the link to the slides as well, I think. So you'll have like the things that are linked within the slides, you'll have access to those as well.
This is Mike at DPI. I can throw in bonus update if you want. While we're waiting, many of you probably are aware of the new reading bill that was passed. It was signed into law yesterday by Governor Evers. And the department will be issuing guidance as soon as we can about how that's going to affect ICSs and districts, because there's new provisions in there that affect ICSs around curriculum and access to financial support and reading instruction and coaching. Pardon me. So look for that to come hopefully soon from the agency. It may not come from Alex. It may come through our agency-wide communications, which usually comes to you, the school administrators of our ICSs. But we'll make sure we communicate it also out through our regular ICS distribution list so to make sure everybody sees it. But we've been getting some questions already about the impact of the reading bill. And again, look for that to come soon from the department. Thanks.
Matt, are you with us now?
I am. Sorry about that. Thanks, Alex.
Okay, so I was saying before you got here that that I can click through your presentation. I'm pretty intuitive about when to do it, but if you need me to move along, just let me know.
Absolutely, Alex. We'll test that theory right now.
Sounds good.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Baier. I'm the fiscal data coordinator on the school financial services team. I'm primarily responsible for managing the development of the next generation of our school finance reporting, and our shift from our traditional reporting that we were doing into using WISE Data Finance. And I'm going to talk about that today and how that affects independent charter schools. And also is going to talk about WUFAR, which is the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting Requirements, which is the accounting language that is required under state law that we utilize to collect financial data from LEAs and other agencies. And I'm just checking one thing because I wanted to make sure that Angie got the link I sent her and she's in here as well. Okay. So before I launch into this, I definitely want to say that this transition that we've been doing with our financial reporting from our legacy systems into WISE Data Finance and WSFIP, which is the Wisconsin School Finance Portal, is something we've been transitioning all LEAs for. There's been a lot of focus on the districts, but we've also been working with the independent charter schools and some independent charter schools are further along in this process of making this transition to utilizing these systems than others. I think each one of the independent charter schools has their own unique set of concerns or different amount of resources that they may have in this area. So what I really want to just start by saying is that we do not have, as far as the independent charter schools, for a lot of this, a very fixed timeline, but we are very actively working with all the independent charter schools and hopefully everybody on this call in making progress to where at some point in the near future, we have all of the independent charter schools as LEAs pushing their financial data in some form to DPI through WISE Data Finance. And I'm going to talk about the different ways that's done through this. So just to cover up what WISE Data Finance is, it's the new application that we're using that allows LEAs to push financial data from their ledger, crosswalk from their ledger into a WUFAR format that the system will accept. And then so data is sent from your ledger to WISE Data Finance, and then WISE Data Finance is really sort of the conduit for financial data. And then as we create the new reporting in the Wisconsin School Finance Portal, it will automatically pull in that financial data that has been pushed into the reporting instead of having to manually enter it. And then completing the reports will be making sure your financial data is clean and then finishing what other pieces of reporting that we may need as far as data collection to collect that report. So we collect these financial reporting, your financial data for a few reasons. One is there's a bunch of state and federal reporting requirements that we have to meet as far as reporting data at the state and federal level. And then we also use that data to calculate certain state aids. So how it works is LEAs either have a finance vendor that is able to push financial data to us via an API in WUFAR. We also have an alternative reporting mechanism, which I'm going to talk about shortly, that allows LEAs that do not have a finance vendor, but want to that do not have a finance vendor that can push that data to us via an API, which is sort of a manual sort of upload fashion. Otherwise, despite sort of manually uploading a spreadsheet with your financial data on it, otherwise acts very much like a vendor. You set up an API, you set up the arm as the vendor, and it pushes data. So LEAs crosswalk their local ledger into a local WUFAR format, which is more detailed. And then that gets rolled up to a DPI chart of account level in WUFAR. And that is the prescribed level that we need that financial data at in order to meet those reporting requirements and to calculate aid. The data is pushed in sort of three sets, three data elements. There's your accounts that you're utilizing. There's a budget amount tied to those accounts and an actual amount. I'm going to talk more about WUFAR later in the conversation and give an idea as to how that is set up and what resources are. I've talked to a lot of the independent charter schools about this transition and getting financial data into a format that can be pushed and consumed by DPI. It's definitely one of the areas which is sort of one of the bigger lifts as far as this process is basically getting your finances in a format that can be pushed to DPI. And then a lot of the independent charter schools, another one of the sort of obstacles to this is that you're not coming from a place of governmental accounting, which is slightly different. It has its own unique nooks and crannies. So the data is pushed to WISE Data Finance. The data, once it's in WISE Data Finance, we run a series of checks and balances that could trigger validations or addenda. And those are basically checks which let you know that there may be one sort of data issues where the data formatting may not be correct. And the other one are actual fiscal validations, which are triggered when certain criteria are met. Like you have a negative amount on this account that you're pushing to us, or you are, your fund balance for say Fund 10, which is general education. Like when we look at your revenues and expenditures and your beginning fund balance, it doesn't match the ending fund balance, doesn't match your fund equity. Or if you're transferring funds between funds, if those amounts don't match the offsetting revenue and expenditures. So there are validations in the system that basically are triggered to indicate to you that like, oh, here's an area that we need to take a look at. And those validations are things that have to be cleared in order to push that data and then eventually, be able to submit the financial reporting that I'm talking about. And then in WISFIP, the finance portal, we're building the new reports and users will be able to go into WISFIP and view the applicable report. And I'll talk more about which reports are applicable to you. But you're able to go in, and if you are able to clear out any validations or complete any addenda that may also be triggered, then you're able to actually submit your report and certify your data saying like, yep, we looked at it, we verified it, this data is correct. And so as part of this, this is really a mindset shift for the entire field. A lot of the reporting that we doing previously was really manually completed, or like a LEA's vendor would have a report that would export data, which could then be uploaded into the report. But the way the reports worked is they were very much after the fact. The data was collected, manually entered, and then if there were errors on that report, which are similar to like the validations that I was talking about, so certain fiscal criteria are met on the report, it causes an error, and then what LEAs would do is they would go in and then they would fix the error in the report. And then the expectation was at that point was then they would then go back and correct it on their books. And that was the piece of that whole flow chart where things sort of would break down traditionally. So this is a push that is, or this mindset shift is, as we call it, is very similar to the change that was made, for how we collect student data in the system, as opposed, from it getting reported sort of after the fact, whereas now LEAs maintain those systems with that student data and they push that data to us throughout the year. And this is the same thing. It's now where in order to complete the reporting, you're pushing your financial data to us from your ledger. And if there are errors or validations that are triggered on the report, in order to fix them, you don't fix them on the report, you go back and fix them on your books, and then you push the data to us again. So it's much more being done in a continual fashion, if not, not continuous, but continual, so periodically throughout the year. And then really keeping that data sort of up to date and then pushed periodically, so we're able to have more consistent and more accurate data. Excuse my clock. The alternative reporting mechanism, which I mentioned, this is the method that we created, and a lot of it with the independent charter schools in mind, to allow some LEAs, and there are some districts that use it as well, to get data into WISE Data Finance via an API. Basically, you're able to set up the ARM as a vendor in our EdFi system. Then you're able to download a template, and you can populate that with your financial data with a local WUFAR chart of accounts and a DPI chart of accounts and the budget and actual amounts on them. And then you're able to upload that into the system. And then the data is in there, just like we're pushing it with through a software vendor. This is something that can be set up. You can just reach out to us if this is the option you want to go with getting your financial data into the system. As I said, as far as what our set timeline is for getting the independent charter schools in, there are certain areas where we're going to have to at least collect specific data now. A good example of that would be if you're an independent charter school that applies for state special education categorical aid. That was usually reported, through our 1505 SE or through a spreadsheet that would be filled out. That collected Fund 27 data, which is special education costs. In order to complete that report for the 22-23 year in a few months, and we're working on development of the report. In order to complete that report, you would need to push financial data to WISE Data Finance, and then it gets pulled into that report. And the ARM is a good option for that if you do not have a software vendor, finance software vendor. In WISE Data Finance, when this data is getting pushed to us, we have a couple levels of validations. I touched on the validations a little bit. Level 1 validations, basically, if you're pushing data and it's in a format that is unusable to us, then it basically, nothing will write to the system. It'll just reject that data. And so you just will not have any of those accounts in the system. And those are L1 validations, and that's very similar to how WISE Data Student is set up. And then we have L2 validations, which is the data was in good enough of a format to where the system can accept it. But the L2 validations would then be triggered to indicate either there's a data formatting issue, which is the data was in a good enough format for it to transmit to us, but there may have been additional issues with the format that the accounts are in. And that could affect how those accounts roll up to the DPI chart of accounts. So those will actually trigger as messages in the system, indicating like, okay, this is the account that is causing this error that needs to be looked at. And then, like I said, the other validations, L2 validations that are triggered are all fiscal validations in nature. In addition to having validations that are triggered by specific fiscal criteria, we had in our legacy reporting, when the reporting was completed, there were specific areas that if you had, say, funds on this one account, or if you had funds on this account, but the balance wasn't zero, there, various things, it would trigger an addenda on the report. An addenda is not something that has to be cleared out, but it's an area where, because of the fiscal criteria being met, we need to collect additional information. And the additional information we collect is either as simple as just verifying, like, hey, you have funds under this specific WUFAR account, which is for this activity. If it's not for this activity, recode it like this, or verify that, yes, that is what that was for. Or it's providing a narrative answer, like, yes, you have funds under this expense account. Can please provide an explanation? And for some, it's you have funds under this balance sheet account, like, please indicate or please itemize out more among this set of programs, how much was in each program. So For similar to the validations, when completing the reporting validations, we basically need to make the validations go away. Addenda, we can either make the addenda go away by updating the ledger, or we can just resolve the addenda by completing the data collection that we need. And then this is just the landing page within WISE Data Finance. Just a summary panel that just shows like, okay, if you do have validations that are being triggered, either L1 validations that are preventing data from getting in, or if you have any L2 validations or addenda being triggered, it just gives you an idea as to like, okay, this is a summary of that. There's an additional screen that lists more detailed information for both validations and addenda. And as you can see, like everything else that we do as far as financial reporting, everything is broken up by fiscal year. I left this slide in, but basically our end goal with all the LEAs, districts, and independent charter schools is that throughout the year that you're pushing data at least on a monthly basis. And we usually suggest that it's done after a monthly bank reconciliation. So complete your monthly bank reconciliation, repush your data. So WISE Data Finance, that's the conduit for transmitting that financial data. The Wisconsin School Finance Portal, or WSFIP, that's the location. It's the new platform where we will be hosting all future school finance reports as we transition them away from Sapphire, which is our legacy portal. It's hosted in WISE Home along with the other DPI secure applications such as WISE Grants and WISE Secure and WISE Dash. And access to those applications within WISE Home is managed by you. So like DPI can assign users to access your data. That's all. You have a district security administrator and application administrators that are set up in WISE Secure. And if you need to grant anybody access yourself or auditors or anyone, that's something that you're able to do. This is the landing page of the Wisconsin School Finance Portal. Not all of these reports are applicable to everyone, and some of them won't show up. Like Chapter 220 is for school districts, Milwaukee school and surrounding school districts. And some of these other ones, as far as school finance reporting, also do not actually apply to independent charter schools. Like the DOR tax data is set up by municipality and school district. And things like that. But some of the other ones definitely are going to apply to you. The high cost special education application, if you have high cost special education students and are applying for reimbursement through that program, we're in the process of transitioning our pupil count report from our legacy systems into this. That's in pilot right now. The budget report and annual report is not something that we have traditionally collected through Sapphire from the independent charter schools in the past. In the future, as we transition all the independent charter schools into so they're up and running and pushing financial data, you'll be able to complete those reports as well through that. The big one, and it's not listed here because we're working on it right now, is the special education report, where you can submit data to apply for state special education categorical aid. And so really right now, I wouldn't worry about the budget report or the annual report, but definitely work on getting data submitted to us through WISE Data Finance. And I'm sure with the number of people who are on this call, where you're at in that process could be widely varied, which is perfectly fine. My bookings link is at the end of this presentation. Feel free, if you have any questions, to reach out and schedule a meeting with me. And definitely continuing to meet with the independent charter schools as things come up and discuss like, okay, what is your timeline and your plan for getting this done? and what areas are applicable to you. Are you going to be applying for state special education categorical aid? What are some of the obstacles? What are some of the resources that we can help you with? The pupil count report is another one that, yeah, I said is in pilot right now. It'll be in pilot for another year. Okay, so the other part of this, and I know we're pressed for time, so I also shared these resources and presentations later on. But I've referred to WUFAR several times. WUFAR is the Wisconsin Uniform Financial Accounting Requirements. It's the multi-dimensional reporting system that can be used as an accounting system by LEAs. A lot of LEAs do use WUFAR as their accounting language, not all of them. If you're not using WUFAR as your accounting language and you have a different accounting setup, you just have to have the ability to crosswalk your ledger into a local WUFAR chart of accounts format. It's required for reporting to DPI, and it's also what we use in WISE grants. So that's when you complete budgets and claims in WISE grants, they also utilize WUFAR.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I chime in right here for
Yes,
a couple of
absolutely.
minutes?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Angeline Gaster. I am an assistant director for school financial services. And I just want to kind of talk a little bit about what Matt's talking about here and how does that look for your charter schools when you're doing your books, okay? So as Matt already said, we're pushing data, right? So we're pushing your financial data through WISE data, and then that's going to give us more information. How do you get your data into WISE data, right? That's the big question. How do you make sure that your data actually matches what WUFAR has? Okay, so I want to just kind of talk about that. So one thing that all charter schools should keep in mind is that budgeting earlier in the year is key, right? And I know that Brielle is going to talk a little bit more about this in a little while, but make sure that you're budgeting at the beginning of the year, right? So get out into WISE grants, enter your budget, be really specific with your budget. Let me see if I can share my screen here. Oh,
I don't know if you can.
I don't think I can. Okay. So what I was going to show you guys is kind of a budget screen inside of WISE grants, and to show you how you can download that budget screen. Then what you do after you've made your budget at the beginning of the year, you download your budget and then you set up your chart of accounts inside of your software to be similar and or match what you have in your budget for each of your grants, right? So basically a crosswalk, as Matt said. So a lot of you don't have the common software that we use here in Wisconsin, which is often like Skyward. There's a couple other ones, but a lot of the charter schools use something like Peachtree or different, more basic accounting. And so with those, you actually have to categorize each one of your spending areas based on the WUFAR structure, right? And I've seen a variety of ways of doing that. But you want to make sure that as you're coding your transactions throughout the year, that you're coding them to the correct area in the WUFAR string, and that you're coding them to the correct projects, right? If it's a Title I expense, it goes to Title I WUFAR project, right? So this is a whole big conversation about WUFAR that expands quite a bit, but you want to make sure that you're looking at what your budget is and matching that to your general ledger and creating a general ledger that will crosswalk into that. And that's how you're going to make WISE data push better. It's also going to be how you get reimbursements for your claims. The grant accountants will review your general ledgers to make sure that they align with the different claim items that are on your budget. If they don't align to the claim items, then often you have to do a journal entry to move the transactions to a more fitting category, right? So being proactive with this is key, right? So look at your budget, start making a plan, share that plan with all of your accounting people, right? Set up your software accordingly. So do all that at the beginning of the year, right? And then remember to claim quarterly, right? Try to claim often. The reason for that is because it increases your cash flow, but also it helps you get a better view of where you're at with your budget. Maybe some areas you need to increase your spend in. Maybe you need to change your budget because you're not going to spend in one category. So where else can we spend throughout the year, right? So you want to think about those things as the year is going. Remember that all DPI grants are reimbursement grants. So before you request payment, you have to spend the funds and receive the materials, right? So keep that in mind. And I know that you'll probably all have a lot of questions about this, and I don't want you to hesitate. reaching out to me directly. Always here to support everybody. Appreciate what you all are doing for the state of Wisconsin and our students. So please continue to do all of that and don't hesitate to reach out. Always here to help.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah, you did a pretty good job fitting all that in the few minutes that we allotted you. Excellent. And I know we're getting close to time, but I do want to hit on a few things. And Alex, feel free to give me the hook at any point. But so I'm going to very briefly touch on WUFAR a little bit more, and then I want to share the resources that we have that have additional information. And again, encourage everyone to reach out if they need to. Can you go ahead one slide, Alex? Sorry, my grandfather clock is 4 feet behind me. It's okay. So we covered this really. We're using WUFAR for collecting financial data, calculating aid, determining compliance with federal regulations such as maintenance of effort under IDEA, and also using the same language for all LEAs. You know, we can't really compare, you know, LEAs, you know, or one charter school to another, or one district to another, or provide any of that information or do any sort of analysis unless everybody's using the same language as when it comes to school finance. And we use that data for state budget building, and it helps ensure compliance with the Uniform Grant Guidance, which covers all federal grants.
I'm just going to chime in real quickly. We have a break scheduled at 10 to 10:15. Matt, if you want to keep going, everyone, this is being recorded, so please don't feel like you have to sit here and listen to Matt live. This will be available later. So if you want to get up and take your break and get your coffee, please feel free to. I'll never know the difference because your camera isn't on.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to take just 2 or 3 more minutes. You can, next slide. This is what WUFAR looks like. These are the data elements. This is not very detailed. I've linked it in our introduction to WUFAR presentation at the end of this presentation on our resources page. We have, it's considered, or WUFAR consists of a 2-digit fund, a optional location code, 3 digits, a 3-digit object or source code, a 6-digit function, and a 3-digit project code, which does not have to be used for all accounts, but for certain accounts, such as for state or federal programs. Angie mentioned Title I. Title I's project code is 141. If you have any expenditures that are associated with the Title I program that you're going to get reimbursement from that grant for, all those accounts have that project code on it, 141. Next slide, Alex. So it's just the 2-digit fund. Fund 10 is the ubiquitous, that's the general education fund. Another important one is Fund 27, which is special education. There's a whole bunch of specific of different funds, not all of which you will need to utilize. A fund is just a self-contained accounting silo, if you will, that has to be self-balancing as far as revenues and expenditures and balance sheet accounts. Types are either revenue, expenditure, or a balance sheet account. Location code is an optional local code that can be used to indicate a program or location within your LEA. A object or source. So for revenues, it's a 3-digit source code. The source just indicates the source of the revenue. For expenditures, the object, object just indicates what you are purchasing for an expenditure or who you are purchasing it from. And a function on an expenditure account just indicates why is the purchase being made, what area does it relate to. The 100,000s are instruction, 120,000 is regular curriculum, 122,000 is reading. And then project code I touched upon. And then the main thing about WUFAR is it's hierarchical, meaning that you can have more detailed, you can keep clicking, Alex, it's going to pull up a few things. You can have more detailed accounts at your level within your books. Those just need to roll up into more general functions, and we're using function as example, but all of the WUFAR elements have the same nature where you can utilize more digits, and it'll just roll up to a DPI chart of account reporting level. This is more examples of that. Next, Alex. And it's really, WUFAR is key to the whole thing. That's what ensures that we're really able to make comparisons and to ensure that we're looking at very specific areas to make sure we have the data that we need. We make revisions to WUFAR on a yearly basis as we need to, either from feedback from the field or if we discover something incorrect, or mainly to accommodate changes under GAP and GASB. And then we maintain a WUFAR chart of allowable accounts. And then that is what's used either with your vendor or when you're using the ARM, like the WUFAR, your local WUFAR account and the rolled up DPI chart of account level need to be accounts that are allowable under that chart of accounts. Some objects don't go with some functions, some functions don't go under some funds, things like that. And in the interest of time, why don't we flip to the resources page, Alex? There we are. Okay, so I wanted to share, that was a lot. We had a very limited amount of time. One, I am definitely able and willing and would love to talk to anybody who has any questions about this process and getting things integrated and what that can look like. We have resources concerning WISE Data Finance and WSFIP on that WISE Data Finance and WSFIP webpage. We have information about the ARM on there as well, getting users into WISE Data Finance and WSFIP. I linked our DPI WUFAR webpage as well, which contains the WUFAR manual and the most recent revision and other resources. The introduction to WUFAR is a more detailed presentation that I usually take an hour to just do that. About the different elements of WUFAR and what means what in there. That's very helpful. I highly suggest that. If you have any WISE Data Finance questions, there's a link to our help ticket system. If you have general school financial services questions, they can be submitted through DippyFin, is what we call that email address. And then there's my bookings page. My bookings link just allows you to automatically schedule time with me. It just looks at my calendar and it'll say these are the slots I have available, and then it'll automatically schedule a Teams meeting so we can meet. So I definitely wanted to share all those resources. I think I just wanted to look at the chat quick, Alex. No. Christy, great question. You are not required, so we are not collecting the budget or annual report in Sapphire for 22-23. In fact, we've not collected the budget report in Sapphire for the last 2 years. All the financials will be going through WISE Data Finance. As far as getting that up and running, we have a little leeway here. We do not use the independent charter schools data that we collect via those reports for the same purposes that we do from the school district. Because the school districts, we have to calculate things like equalization aid and things like that, and those are dependent off of those reports. We definitely want to collect all the independent charter school financial data for a bevy of reasons, but we have a little bit of latitude with getting that information in. So all I'm saying is I'm not dropping the bomb on you. It's like, nope, we're not collecting those reports through Sapphire anymore. And you have to get fully set up and pushing data to WISE Data Finance in the next 3 weeks. Definitely want to work with everybody individually to see where you're at and work on a plan for sort of like, this is where we think we can do. The area where it may be more important is if you do apply for state special education categorical aid, and in which case I definitely would want to work with you because we'll be opening that report in a couple of months, and then that will also no longer be in Sapphire. So in order to complete that report, that would be pushing data to WISE Data Finance and being pulled into that report. So that I think is more because I think that may be more applicable to some of the independent charter schools that we may want to start focusing on that. But like I said, I've talked to almost all the charter schools and everybody's in sort of a different place. So I want to really have that one-on-one conversation.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
This is Jamie from the Lincoln Academy. Quick question. So the special education report, we do not have to do in the old system. It's just going to be pulled from our WISE data finance.
Yes. And if anybody's not set up with pushing data to WISE Data Finance, we can work with you on like getting the ARM set up and getting at
Okay.
least that Fund 27 information in the system.
Okay, our data is going monthly, so
Awesome.
I'll just have to re-push
Oh, yeah,
it.
you are.
So
Yeah, excellent.
yeah, will have to re-push it for June 30th because we're still, making.
Yep, absolutely. We got to close out the year first, and then
Yep.
And then we're working on the development of the annual report and the special education annual report right now in WISFID.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, I only went 9 minutes over, so.
Great. So we have 5 minutes left of our 15-minute break. So why don't we get up, have a cup of coffee, stretch our legs, do whatever it is we need to do, and we will reconvene in 5 minutes at 10:15.
Yep.
Thanks so much,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, everybody.